Have you ever heard of Eagle's Nest Sinkhole, often referred to as the Mount Everest of cave diving? It's a place where underwater cave exploration reaches new heights, known for its stunning scenery, extreme depths, and isolated setting. But there's a catch. Beneath its picturesque exterior, a concealed peril awaits, as numerous divers have ventured in. But how many have made it out? Eagle's Nest Sinkhole is found in west-central Florida, inside the Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area. On the surface, it may not look inviting, with greenish, murky water, alligators, and annoying mosquitoes and ticks. But beneath this unimpressive exterior is a fascinating yet risky world, earning it the nickname of Dangerous Beauty. The water in this sinkhole doesn't offer the crystal-clear views you might find in other springs nearby, like Buford Springs and Weeki Wachee. Despite these surface challenges, a group of experienced divers bravely explores the underwater caves, considering Eagle's Nest a hidden paradise and a top-notch cave system. Underwater visibility in Eagle's Nest Sinkhole can vary, depending on factors like the Floridan aquifer's condition and recent rainfall. A message board at the site shares updates on diving conditions, ranging from excellent visibility to almost no visibility at all. Sometimes natural organic dyes darken the water, but on lucky days it becomes as clear as gin. Diving here is like stepping into another world, captivating, amazing, and full of adventure. Eagle's Nest Sinkhole is strictly for qualified and experienced divers due to its treacherous nature. Navigating the cave system can be challenging and disorienting even for professionals. Therefore, it's advisable for divers to seek guidance from experienced individuals who have explored the cave before to understand its unique challenges. Inside the Eagle's Nest cave systems, divers must negotiate tight, narrow passages, some as short as 70 feet, 21 meters. The caves feature grand chambers with names like the Ballroom, Super Room, and the Pit. The Ballroom leads to smaller, dark passages that can extend up to 300 feet, 91 meters, deep in certain areas. The combination of extreme depths, total darkness, and intricate cave networks classifies it as an exceptionally advanced dive site. Unfortunately, at least 13 divers lost their lives there since 1981, leading to a closure of the site to divers from 1999 to 2003, marked by a prominent warning sign. On September 11, 2005, Judy Bedard, a 48-year-old certified cave diver and registered nurse, embarked on a dive in Eagle's Nest Sinkhole with her partner Rudy Banks. Their adventure took them into the mesmerizing but hazardous underwater cave system, descending 300 feet 91 meters below the Earth's surface. The complex network of passages extended over a mile, presenting formidable challenges. In one stretch of the cavern, known as the Pit, the tunnel reaches depths of 300 feet 91 meters. It's a sight of both wonder and risk. Judy and Rudy began their dive with a gradual descent into the cave, and everything was proceeding smoothly. However, at a depth of 130 feet, 40 meters, technical issues started to plague Judy's equipment. To address the situation, Judy transitioned to her tri-mix tank, but the gas mixture wasn't correctly balanced for this depth. Recognizing the problem, Judy switched back to her nitrox tank, and both divers initiated their ascent towards the surface. In cave diving, ascent should be gradual to prevent decompression sickness, commonly known as the bends. However, time was not on their side for a slow decompression due to the gas mixture error. As they reached a depth of 100 feet, 30 meters, Judy lost consciousness. Her breathing ceased at approximately 60 feet, 18 meters from the surface. Faced with a dire situation, Rudy had a difficult decision to make. Judy's life hung in the balance, with still 60 feet, 18 meters of water above them. A rapid ascent risked exacerbating Judy's condition due to her already oxygen-depleted state. Rudy opted for a swift ascent, understanding that it offered a slim chance of recovering from decompression sickness compared to certain death within the cave. He swiftly brought Judy to the surface, where he desperately needed assistance to revive her. Greg Stanton, a former diving safety officer at Florida State University, and his friend James Gary, a member of the University of South Florida's Diving Control Board, came to Rudy's aid after completing their dives. Greg lamented that it was the ascent that initiated a series of challenges for Judy, including arterial gas embolisms. Upon reaching the surface, Judy had no pulse, and distressingly, her eyes were open with blood and foam emanating from her mouth. James enlisted the help of Dan Pelland, a Spring Hill resident at Eagle's Nest, for photography, and they dialed 911 using Pelland's phone. Rudy and Pelland performed CPR, a vital life-saving technique given Judy's condition. After 15-20 minutes of CPR, Judy's heart started beating again, and her breathing was restored. However, she remained unconscious and in dire need of medical attention. Unfortunately, help was not readily accessible at Eagle's Nest Sinkhole due to its remote location and challenging unpaved entrance. In Judy's case, insufficient supplies and transportation hurdles hindered the medical response. She had to be transported using a sport utility vehicle, backboard, without an IV drip. Ambulance and helicopter services were on standby in the nearby forest to expedite her journey to the hospital. Fish and wildlife investigator Stephen Farmer made 3 key statements regarding the factors that led to Judy's injuries at the cave site, echoing the sentiments of Greg and James. These included poorly mixed gases in her trimix tanks, an inadequate analysis of gas proportions, and the closure of the isolation valve connecting the 2 tanks, which Judy failed to check before the dive. Some experts contended that Judy bore responsibility for her equipment. It is the responsibility of all divers to meticulously check their breathing gases before commencing a dive. A simple check of the isolation valve might have revealed the uneven tank pressures and potentially prevented further complications, prompting the cancellation of the dive. Rudy endured a period of profound unhappiness due to Judy's deteriorating health. Judy's condition warranted her transfer to Shands, where her status was categorized as critical. Early on, hope for her recovery was dim, with doctors expressing amazement at her survival during the first 24 hours post-dive. Kidney failure and multiple heart attacks followed her treatment in the hyperbaric chamber, where the goal was to expedite the removal of gas bubbles caused by air embolisms. Judy's vibrant and cheerful personality, known to friends and fellow divers, made her ordeal even more difficult to accept. Her vibrant spirit seemed at odds with the cruel twist of fate she had endured. Transported to Tampa General Hospital, Judy embarked on a rigorous rehabilitation journey. Her full consciousness didn't return until 2 months after the incident, in November. Recalling the moment, she said, "I remember waking up, unable to move, with atrophied legs and a tracheostomy tube. I thought, oh my God." Throughout her hospitalization, Judy faced cardiac arrest, respiratory failure, multiple organ complications, cognitive decline, and post-traumatic amnesia. Typically, a patient subjected to such trauma would survive with neurological and physical impairments, potentially experiencing paralysis. Initially requiring assistance with basic mobility, Judy grappled with balance issues and breathlessness, even with the aid of a wheeled walker. Months of intensive therapy followed, leading to remarkable progress. After about 5 weeks, she could walk over 300 feet, 91 mi. Her recovery was nothing short of miraculous, as described by one of her doctors, and her former brain injury team physical therapist hailed it as one of the best outcomes witnessed. After leaving the hospital in January 2006, Judy spent 6 more months in outpatient therapy, regaining her strength, flexibility, and coordination. The following summer, she achieved her dream of an open water dive with Rudy in the Gulf of Mexico near Newport Richey. In June 2007, Judy returned to work at Tampa General Hospital, opting for the medical records division to accommodate her passion for diving while reducing overtime hours. Judy resumed his exploration of underwater caverns after shaking off some rust and a load of anxieties. Several places, including Peacock Springs in North Florida, have been attempted by her. On a Christmas morning in 2014, Darren Spivey, a 35-year-old roofer from Brooksville, embarked on a dive to Eagle's Nest with his 15-year-old son, Dylan Sanchez. Gifted with new dive equipment, their excitement was palpable. Darren's affinity for diving had been a lifelong passion, often bringing friends along for weekend swims. While certified to dive up to 130 ft, 40 ma, with regular air, he lacked specialized cave diving credentials, which became pertinent for deeper exploration. 6 months prior, Darren met Robert Brooks, a seasoned cave diver who became a potential mentor. Brooks insisted on cave certification before any joint expeditions. He lent Darren equipment and encouraged him to pursue certification, but Darren delayed this crucial step. Meanwhile, Dylan, a Hernando High School freshman immersed in the junior ROTC program, shared his father's enthusiasm. Diligently studying dive manuals, he honed his skills under Darren's guidance, striving for expertise. Eagle's Nest was no stranger to them, having dived there several times, well aware of its inherent risks. Safety was paramount in their minds, as emphasized by Darren's fiancée, Holly King, who recognized Darren's unwavering dedication to his family, willing to safeguard them at any cost. It all started normally. Darren and Dylan left home at 7 a.m. to test out new diving equipment at Buford Springs, but found out it was flooded, so they decided to drive down to Eagle's Nest Sink. They arrived at around 11 a.m. at a parking lot in front of a wooden dock. This wooden dock had several signs warning visitors of the impending dive. Despite the warnings, Darren and his son donned their scuba gear and waddled across the dock to the water. They jumped in the water, swam for a while, and dove further until they reached the Eagle's Nest entrance room. Darren assured his mentor, Robert Brooks, that he'd stay in the ballroom, a cavern within Eagle Nest reaching depths of around 200 ft, 61 mates, avoiding the perilous tunnels. Yet the ballroom remained treacherous for untrained divers, with its dark chambers and labyrinthine caves often leading to disorientation. A warning sign, "Stop, prevent your death," marked the division of the ballroom into 2 smaller caves, potentially reaching depths of 300 ft, 91 moment. Disregarding their initial plan, Darren and his son ventured beyond Eagle's Nest's entrance and into a lengthy, narrow tunnel beneath the surface. Typically, divers relied on a guideline, vital for navigation in the murky waters of the cave's entrance. Once within this passage, divers swam until daylight disappeared, entering the main ballroom without complications. However, their circumstances were about to take a dire turn. Continuing their descent into the cavern, aware of their dwindling oxygen, the duo faced the prospect of a prolonged decompression process due to their extreme depth. To prevent decompression sickness, they needed to ascend gradually to avoid forming air bubbles in their blood. Robert Brooks believed they lacked sufficient air for this process. Such deep dives also require a specialized gas mixture, with helium replacing some nitrogen to reduce narcotic effects, especially below 100 feet, 30 meter. According to Robert, Darren and his son used plain compressed air, lacking this critical mixture. As hours passed without contact, Darren's fiancée Holly, growing increasingly worried, drove to the site herself after sunset. Darren had texted her their diving location just before entering the water. Discovering his car near the dock, Holly, fearing the worst, decided to contact the police around 7:30 p.m. Upon learning of the missing divers, Brooks enlisted 2 certified cave divers to aid in the search. The police promptly arrived. deploying trained recovery divers to locate the missing pair. Concerned that Darren and Dylan might be trapped, they followed the guideline into the ballroom through the narrow passage. The divers came to a halt just outside the passage and shined their flashlights up at the ceiling. Divers were frequently trapped near the existence of underwater caves. Between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., at a depth of 67 EFT 20, one of the divers discovered Dylan's body floating against the ballroom ceiling. Father Darren's body was discovered at a depth of 127 FT 39 meters on a large mound on the ballroom floor. According to Brooks, their dive computers and air gauges showed that they had both descended to 203 at 71 and had run out of air, Dylan first apparently, because his father had deployed a long breathing hose that allowed his son to breathe from his tank. Father and son died there on Christmas Day. According to authorities, they drowned by accident. An investigation into what went wrong was underway the next day. According to Robert Brooks, who assisted in his recovery, the drownings appear to result from a diver who attempted to go beyond his training and experience. "The sad thing is," I told him, "one night they'll call me to come get you," Brooks explained. According to Brooks, Darren had taken great care in setting up the equipment they used, but their lack of experience and proper gear in a place like Eagle Nest proved fatal. "They were doomed from the beginning," he said. Darren and Dylan descended to 230 FT 70 mead with inadequate preparation, lacking the right gas mixture and essential training and equipment. Their deaths were investigated, assuming they followed the guideline into one of the two caves, where they likely experienced nitrogen narcosis, a drowsy sensation induced by high-pressure air below 100 feet. This impairment can cause disorientation and poor judgment, a grave danger in deep water. They likely ran out of oxygen upon returning to the ballroom. The son likely ran out of air first, and Darren tried to share his regulator before passing out. Darren's tank depleted rapidly, and he sank, while Dylan made a desperate ascent but lost the guideline and couldn't find the exit. Darren Spivey and Dylan Sanchez's tragic deaths serve as a stark reminder of the perils in this infamous underwater cave system. Visitors are urged to come well prepared and prioritize safety. Patrick Peacock and Chris Rittenmeyer. On October 15, 2016, 3 divers, including Patrick Peacock and Chris Rittenmeyer from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, ventured into the Eagle's Nest Sinkhole to explore its underwater cave system. Both experienced cave divers, Patrick and Chris had explored cave systems in Florida, Mexico, and South America before their ill-fated dive at Eagle's Nest Sinkhole. Patrick, a diving instructor, was well-versed in underwater exploration. Their visit to Eagle's Nest wasn't their first. They had ventured into the cave system on previous occasions. On October 15, 2016, around 2 p.m., the 2 divers, along with their less experienced friend Justin Blakely, entered the murky waters of the sinkhole with their scuba gear. While Patrick and Chris, with their extensive experience, delved deep into the dark cave system, Justin, being less experienced, remained close to the surface. They had planned to reunite at a designated spot by 3 p.m., just an hour after starting their dive. However, when Justin returned to the agreed-upon location after about half an hour, he couldn't find his friends, so he resumed diving. Repeated returns to the rendezvous point yielded no sign of Patrick and Chris. With growing panic as hours passed, Justin, lacking the experience for a search operation, surfaced around 6 p.m. and contacted the police. At this point, a rescue operation was launched. The first search team, consisting of John Burnott and Charlie Robertson, initiated their dive at 11:01 p.m. and began by exploring the upstream passages as per Justin's report. However, despite an extensive search throughout the tunnels, including those downstream, they found no trace of the missing divers. They resurfaced around 3:30 a.m. The second search team, comprising Ted McCoy and A.J. Gonzalez, began their dive around 3:45 a.m., focusing on the downstream tunnels. After 45 minutes, they discovered the lifeless bodies of Patrick and Chris near the pit exit, one of the cave's largest chambers. They documented the scene, noting significant details, including equipment conditions and positions. The two divers were found in a distressing state. One still had a closed-circuit rebreather, but with displaced bailouts. An empty gas cylinder was nearby, connected by a long hose, and the onboard oxygen had 300 psi remaining. But the diluent bottle was empty. The absence of a primary light head and poorly positioned backup lights added to the complications. An unclipped, powered-off scooter was also found nearby. The second missing diver was positively buoyant, wearing a dry suit with mask and fins. A backup light dangled from his pocket, and no additional gas bottles were nearby. A full gas cylinder was staged at the pit exit with uncertain contents. Nearby, the missing primary light head was located. Downstream, another full cylinder was found, while 2 of the 4 side-mounted bailouts were discovered downstream of the pit but were empty. The second search team returned to the surface after documenting the location of the bodies. On the following afternoon, Eric Deester and Colt Smith entered the cave with information from the second search team to recover the 2 bodies near the pit exit. 2 additional divers, Ken Sallet and a companion, awaited the bodies above. On Monday, October 17, 2016, another team, comprising John Bernal and James Draker, retrieved the remaining equipment left in the cave, including 2 scooters, the closed-circuit rebreather of the second missing diver, and a bailout bottle along the gold line leading to Revelation Space. The rebreather's loop was intact and operational. These items were handed over to the authorities for further analysis. The deaths of Patrick and Chris sparked years of debate among divers, but no publicly available documented analyses exists to pinpoint the exact cause of their deaths. Diving expert Chuck Walls speculated that nitrogen narcosis might have played a role, given their location in the complex cave system at a depth of 260 ft, 79 mm. Nitrogen narcosis typically occurs around 100 ft, 30 botmeter, leading to loss of consciousness due to the sedative effects of high-pressure gases, often resulting in disorientation and drowning, unless prompt action is taken. Eagle's Nest was considered a perilous cave system, prompting calls to prohibit further diving in its treacherous waters due to the loss of multiple divers. The cave's entrance had been previously banned by the state in 1999, but it was reopened in 2003, thanks in part to lobbying efforts by the National Association for Cave Divers and the National Speleological Society Cave Diving Section. Tragically, Eagle's Nest claimed the lives of 2 divers on Christmas Day in 2013. Darren Spivey, a certified diver, and his 15-year-old son, who had limited experience, ventured into the cave to test their new air tanks. And that's all for today. If you found this video interesting, please show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and ringing the bell icon to receive notifications when we share more captivating cave diving stories in the future.